Ninja Cube has just announced update 3.1 where they're adding Adora and they're doing so many balance changes, especially for the Supermonkey. Supermonkey's getting some crazy buffs, so let's hop right into it. Alright boys, in today's video, I'm going to be covering the new balance changes and all the stuff they're adding to the update while playing some Whole Masters games. So we're first against Tian Kai China with the strategy Druid sub farm. So we're going to start with my Druid right here, and then we're going to get my Obin down as well. But first change, ladies and gentlemen, first change is going to be they are adding Adora. They're adding a brand new hero, which is really cool. So, Praise the Sun Priestess Adora has arrived in Battles 2. Okay, I don't really know what that word is, but I probably mispronounced it. So I haven't really played BT6 much, so I don't really know much about Adora, but I'm pretty sure like you can sacrifice towers into it to buff other things. It's really interesting there. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out in battles. I'm very excited for it. They're also adding a new map called Sun Palace, so that'll be cool as well. The Sun Palace map, battle the balloons in the Holy Palace of the Sun, available in all game modes and all arenas. It's gonna be in the Whole Masters too, which is gonna be really exciting. I'll put a screenshot of it on the screen right freaking now, and then there's gonna be a new bling for season 12 as well. But now let's hop into the balance changes and stuff I was really excited about, because there's a ton of balance changes, guys, especially for the Supermonkey, which we covered in this video. So stay tuned for that. But here we go. First balance change is to the Bloons, since they're making spaced and grouped BFBs only 1600 instead of 1800, which is actually a huge buff. 1600 for BFBs is unbelievably cheap, guys. I remember back when the game came out, it was over 2k for BFBs, I'm pretty sure, and now it's only 1600. They're only $600 more than a Moab, and they pop into 4 Moabs. That's actually kind of crazy. I think it's going to be pretty broken, to be honest. 1600 for BFBs. I think it's going to be pretty broken. I don't know what Ninja Kiwi was on when they made this one, but all right. They got Dart Monkey. They're making the Ultra Juggernaut deal 5 damage instead of 4 to Moab class, and then 6 instead of 5 to bonus fortified. So a little bit more Moab class damage for Dart Juggernaut. They're making the Sharpshooter and Crossbow Master crit on their first attack now. They're making the Razor Sharp Shots for the Dart Monkey cheaper, and they're making the Spike-a-Pult for the Dart Monkey cheaper. So a bunch of Dart Monkey buffs. Or Spike-a-Pult's actually a little bit more expensive, but it evens out with the Razor Sharp Shots change. So some Dart Monkey buffs overall. We'll see how this plays out, but overall pretty good changes for the Dart Monkey, I'd say. Dart Monkey is definitely one of the lower class towers right now. Next one is the Tack Shooter, guys. They're making the Blade Shooter 750 instead of 700. This is a change I've been wanting, because Blade Shooter, Tack Shooter in general are 2 of the best upgrades and towers in the entire game for early game. So making that Blade Shooter a little bit more expensive will definitely even things out a little bit for the other towers. They're making the Inferno Ring deal 7 plus Moab class damage instead of 4, and they're making the Meteor create an area of effect damage of 150 instead of 50. So big buffs to the Inferno Ring. And the damage over time from the Meteor is also 150 instead of 50. Very big buffs to the Inferno Ring, guys. Very, very big buffs to the Inferno Ring. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, if Inferno Ring will ever be used at all now. Glue Gunner, they're making the Bloon Liquefier do 2 damage to Moab class balloons instead of 1 now. So big buff to the Glue Gunner. 2 damage now. Okay. He's sending me Zebras. Let's get Druid of Wrath up. They're making the Bloon Solver deal 10 damage to Moab class balloons instead of 9 now as well. So big changes. Both the Bloon Liquefier and Bloon Solver both got buffs there, which is pretty interesting. Okay, if he sends me a rush here, all I do is get up a Bloontonium Reactor. If not, I'm gonna upgrade my farm. Okay, we're good. Okay, we got my reactor up. We defend the rush pretty well. So they're going Druid sub farm with Jericho. I'm going Druid sub farm with Obin here. So slight difference in loadout. Well, difference in hero, but same loadout overall. Next thing is Sniper Monkey. They're making the Elite Sniper ability no longer have an initial cooldown, which I think is a really good change. That was something I was a little bit upset about earlier when I realized the Elite Sniper had initial cooldown, so I'm happy to see that. They're making the Monkey sub first strike capability 15k instead of 14k, so they're nerfing the first strike a little bit, which honestly I'm okay with. First strike is definitely one of the best upgrades in the entire game for sure, so I'm okay to see it being nerfed. I think he's gonna rush me here, by the way. They actually go for a ballistic on their side. Okay. No rush, surprisingly. Okay. So that's the monkey sub. Oh, they also made the preemptive strike cheaper on the sub. That's good. So they made the first strike more expensive, preemptive strike cheaper. Preemptive strike still is going to be pretty useless in my opinion, but it's good to see it get cheaper because it did deserve a buff. Dude, he's lagging so bad. Right when he rushed me, the game lags like crazy, bro. What is that? Bro, get some better Wi-Fi or something. Like, holy cow. Okay, we're good against that. Alright, that's GG. I'll catch you all in the next game where we cover the rest of it. Alright guys, our next match of the video is on the map of Glade against RM, Leo, and Mona. We are going to start with our Boomerang right here because we're on Boomerang Mortar Farm. Let's get my Quincy down as well. Put this guy on last. And yeah, we'll continue going over the balance changes. So last one we covered was the Wizard Monkey. So that means the next one is the Ninja. They're making the base cost of the Ninja cheaper. The 1XX cheaper as well. Distraction has a better chance of distracting balloons. And we'll send them back farther on average. They're making the Shinobi Tactics a little bit more expensive. Barely more expensive though. And that's also gonna just, yeah, barely more expensive. They're making the Caltrops cheaper. They're making the Flash Bomb cheaper. And they're making Sticky Bomb more expensive. So overall, Sticky Bomb has received a nerf, but overall, I think Ninja, that's probably a buff to Ninja, overall, I'd say. But yeah, a lot of changes for Ninja there. A lot of changes for Ninja. So that's very interesting to see. Very interesting to see. Maybe Ninja Alk will be a little bit better now, which would be pretty cool. At least early game for Ninja Alk should definitely be better with the base price being changed and then the 1XX being cheaper as well. Early game for Ninja Alk should be a lot better. And next thing is the Spike Factory. I use Spike Factory a lot, so I'm actually interested to see what's going on here. They made the base cost of the Spike Factory $600 instead of $800. $200 cheaper for a Spike Factory is actually pretty crazy. Okay. They made the Spiked Balls $200 more expensive though. So Spiked Balls overall is the same price now as it was before. Because base price changed, Spike Balls price changed. They made the long life spikes, the bottom path, which is what I pretty much always go for on the Spike Factory. They made its spike duration only 75 seconds instead of 100 seconds. So big nerf. Big nerf over there. Big nerf. Also, I need a boost here. Big nerf to the long life spikes there. Let's get this up to that. Alright, we're good. They made the deadly spikes cheaper as well. Okay. So overall, I don't really know about the Spike Factory if that's a nerf or a buff. Like, price-wise, Spike Factory overall got buffed, but the change to 75 seconds on long life spikes or long reach spikes is a big nerf to long reach spikes. So I don't really know. Engineer Monkeys next. They made the double gun $100 cheaper, and they made the balloon trap $100 more expensive. So overall, that's a small engineer buff because trap is still the same price as before, but one of the preceding upgrades is cheaper. I don't really think engineer deserved a buff. I think it's a pretty good tower right now, but you know, to each their own. Obin, they made the level 19 deal more damage than before. Okay, I don't really think it's going to change much. Obin's not really used for damage. They made the level 20 wall of trees 8k RB instead of 5k. That's a pretty big buff there. It's the level 20 wall of trees. Ocean Obin, the level 18, now buffs attacks range. Wait, attack speed of all magic monkeys 15% instead of 10%. Okay, so Ocean Obin, that's a pretty big buff to Ocean Obin late game. I'm not gonna lie. Level 19 deals 4 damage as well, just like normal Obin, and level 20 RBE limit is higher too. Okay. So both of those got pretty similar change, but Ocean Obin got the attack speed change as well, which is interesting. What's next? Highwayman Jericho got a nerf. The first initial cooldown of the steal is 33 seconds instead of 25 seconds. So Highwayman Jericho is the same overall, just the first steal is going to come a little bit later. This is the only change for the Highwayman Jericho. The first steal comes by a little bit later there. So we'll have to see how that impacts the gameplay, the core aspects of gameplay. Alright, we're good on our side. We got my boomerangs up. We got my mortar up. We'll get this up to signal flare here. What's next? Star Captain Jericho. They made the level 6 rainbow steel $31 per rainbow you send instead of 35. So the steel is going to give you, like, if you send rainbows with the steel, you're overall going to steal about $100. Wait. How many? It's 25 balloons, so 25 times 4. Yeah, $100 less with the steel. Because normally people send rainbows with it, so you're still $100 less with the Jericho steel. Now we're on to the thing I was curious about, Supermonkey, guys. Dude, the amount of changes in this balance thing for Supermonkey is absurd. Like, look at, I'm gonna just put the list right now. And you can't even cover it on like one screenshot. That's how many it is. I can't even cover it all in one screenshot. Okay. Well, let's start. First things first, they made the base cost of the Supermonkey 1.8k instead of 2.1k, so that's a buff. They made the laser blast of the Supermonkey 1.4k instead of 2.3k, that's a buff. They made the plasma blast 3k instead of 4.5k, that's a buff. They made the epic range 1k instead of 1.4k, that's a big buff. They made the Robo Monkey 10k instead of 7k, that's a nerf. They made the Dark Knight 4k instead of 5.6k, but it deals only plus 2 extra damage instead of plus 3 extra damage. Okay. So overall, that's probably about equal as before. It's cheaper, but deals a little bit less damage. Now, here's where it gets interesting, guys. They made the Sun Temple 80k instead of 100k. So Sun Temple is actually pretty cheap now, 80k, and then you have to remember all the Plasma Blast upgrades from before are cheaper as well. So overall, Sun Temple is a lot cheaper than before. Very, very cheap. They made the, where was I? They made the Tech Terror knockback 8, a little bit less than before. Okay. They made the Dark Champion cost 30k instead of 55k, so it's 25k cheaper for a Dark Champion. But the Pierce is plus 2 instead of plus 4, and the damage is plus 2 bonus damage instead of plus 5 bonus damage, as compared to the Dark Knight. Now they did someone did a price to damage comparison from before the update and after, which I'll be covering here in a second. So we'll be seeing like how much worse or better the Dark Knight and Dark everything is in a second here. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. What's next? True Sun God is now 200k instead of 400k. True Sun God's price got cut in half, guys, and it deals 30 damage instead of 20 damage. So True Sun God deals more damage than before and is cheaper than before, which is interesting. Okay, I should just... Alright, I did not need to do all that, to be honest. Definitely an overreaction, but I was trying to cover these balance changes, so I was a little bit preoccupied. Dude, this guy keeps rushing me. I'm trying to cover the balance changes. Please be kind. And let me do my thing, bro. Let me do my thing. Okay. Okay. So yeah, True Sun God deals more damage before and it's half the price, but a lot of the buffs and stuff from the True Sun God are worse than before. We'll be covering that in a second. The Legend of the Night. The Legend of the Night is now only 100k instead of 240k. So a Legend of the Night is much cheaper than before now, actually. Very, very cheap. 100k instead of 240k. And it only is plus 4 damage though instead of plus 8 for bonus damage, and plus 4 instead of plus 8 for mob class, and plus 8 pierce instead of plus 15. So a lot less damage than before, but much cheaper. Now here, the Legend of the Night portal, though, is only a 4-second portal and a maximize of sacrificing 1 BAD. However, though, since Legend of the Night's so cheap now, you can pretty much get a free BAD defend if a full health BAD is at the end of your map pretty easily, because it's not going to be that hard to afford it anymore. It won't be too difficult to afford that Legend of the Night anymore. Okay, we should be able to defend this, by the way. We just spam a million boomerangs. Yeah, we're good, we're good, we're good. Okay, yeah. Legend of the Night portal is now half the duration and can only do 1 bad. So that's definitely a nerf to Legend of the Night, like, overall strength. But since it's like half the price now, you know, you got to take that into account as well with things. You have to take that into account. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? The Sun Temple and True Sun God now only require 15k of sacrifices instead of 20k. So overall, they require a lot less money of sacrifices to be able to get the max sacrifices. But the max sacrifices are a lot worse, which we will be covering here in a second. Just let me cook with this defense. Alright, yep. Alright, now we can cover the sacrifices, which is the part. Dude, I can't focus and like do the game at the same time. It's so difficult. Sacrificing 15k of primary towers to the Sun God and True Sun God now reduce attack cooldown of the main thing by only 10% instead of 25%, so that's overall a nerf. Sacrificing 15k of support towers now no longer give towers +1 damage in range. Sacrificing 15k of support towers reduces attack cooldown of towers by a range of 15%, so that's a buff. So now it's a 15% attack buff instead of 10%. Sacrificing 15k of support towers now spawns crates worth 2,000 instead of 750, so that's a buff. Sacrificing 15k of support towers to create 5x6 perma spikes at a rate of 30 seconds and no longer one at a time. Okay, so that's a buff. Sacrificing 15k of primary towers provides blades that deal 20 instead of 25 damage, nerf. 15k provides glaives that deal 25 damage instead of 30 and 40% to 50, so that's a nerf. Sacrificing 15k of magic towers provides mini sun avatars that deal 1 damage instead of 3 damage. Okay, so overall the sacrifices have been nerfs. However, since the True Sun God and Sun Temple are so much cheaper than before, they're probably a lot better upgrades than before. And also, guys, someone did a price comparison, which I'm about to show right here. Alright, boys, here is the price efficiency comparison of the Supermonkey before the update and after the update. So currently a Dark Knight, if you have a 203 Dark Knight, which is the Plasma Blast, right? Which is the cross path everyone gets, 203. You have that. It will have 133.32 DPS, and it costs $18,700 for a price to damage ratio of $140 per DPS. And when I'm saying DPS, I mean single target, because that's what you're using it for most cases, like popping down a BAD, for example. All of these figures are going to be in single target. Now, after the update, it's going to cost $14,400, but only do 100 DPS. So it's going to do $144 per DPS. So it's 4 more DPS per dollar, and it's cheaper overall. So it's more efficient and cheaper after the update. Now, the Dark Champion currently does 330 DPS, and it costs 73k. So it does $221 per DPS. Well, after the update, it's going to do less damage, it's going to cost less, and it's going to be $167 per DPS. That's a lot more efficient than before, guys. Over 40 more DPS per dollar there. If you combine overclock with it, it's still even more efficient at $135 per DPS compared to $162 right now. And lastly, Legend of the Night. Legend of the Night currently does 1200 DPS and costs $313,000, which means that its cost basis for DPS is $261 per DPS. However, after the update, it's gonna only cost $181 per DPS. And then if you combine overclock, currently right now it costs $164.5 for DPS with overclock, and then after the update it costs $129 per DPS. So basically, Dark Knight, Dark Champion, and Legend Knight are much better than before. Not only are they cheaper, they're more efficient damage for their price. And Legend of the Knights, you're gonna get that portal for a lot cheaper as well. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something in today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below about the update. I think they overbuffed Supermonkey for sure. I thought Supermonkey was in a pretty good spot before this update, and it's gonna be pretty broken now with these changes. But let me know your thoughts. Mehalic out. Peace, lads.